Hey, everybody, welcome. Hello, I'm Natalie, and this is Life After a Cult, where we talk about Scientology, other cults, life after a cult, all the good stuff. Welcome, everybody. Thank you to the moderators for being here and helping out. Members in the chat, I see you. Thank you for being here, and everybody else in the live chat. If you're catching this on the replay, please jump in those comments. We want to hear from you. Today, I get to chat with Liz Gale. You guys know her, you love her. We're going to talk about what's been happening in Oregon and what she's up to. I'm going to try and keep track of your questions. If you could put question in front of it, that'll help me see it, and we'll try and grab as many as we can. But bring the aloha, enjoy yourselves, and let's jump into this conversation. Hello, Miss Liz Gale.
Hello. Hello. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. This morning on the recap, we were looking at your video from protesting this morning. And before I forget, I want to make sure I'll do this later too. Let me just pull up. I am sure, because I know you guys in the chat and on the replay are like on top of it, but make sure you're following Liz Gale here on YouTube. The mods are dropping a link in the chat already, and that is her YouTube page. And if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Liz Gale also wrote the book, Confessions of a Former, you say
You're so close. You're so close. Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead. And it's the first in a series. If I had one laying around here, I'd show you. But it's actually going to be the first in a series. We've got Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Mom coming up next.
Wow. Do you know about when we can kind of expect that?
Well, if you've been following me long enough, you won't believe anything I tell you right now. But I'm shooting for spring. Yeah, spring.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so cool. I cannot wait.
Thanks.
That's fabulous. Let me address this quick. Kat, hey, Cult, thank you for being a member for 10 months. Love you both so much. Aloha and positivity. Thank you. Okay, so where do we want to start? I think with what's happening in Oregon. Do you want to tell people a little bit about the mission and how Baby Blue came to be, which I love the name, by the way. I thought that was genius. Soon as you said it, can we call this Baby Blue? I'm like, I'm so in.
Well, we've got Big Blue down in LA, and it's pretty much the same color scheme. So it works. It works. Yeah. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. We are talking about Oregon today. I am a native of Oregon, and we are west of Portland. And there's a bunch of little communities over here. And one of them is called McMinnville. And it's a pretty thriving little community. It has been historically a hotspot, they call it, of Scientologists, partially because the Delphian School. The Delphian School is it's debatable, but it's a Scientology boarding school as far as I'm concerned. And it's been around since the 70s. And so with a boarding school come, a community. There's people that live there. I mean, some of those staff have been there for, I feel like, the whole time. Raised entire children there. In fact, the headmaster now is the son of a past headmaster. Yeah, who grew up there. So we're talking about essentially generational Scientologist community. McMinnville is the closest structured town to the school. So dental appointments, library. I mean, I guess there's probably a library in Sheridan, but a bigger library, grocery stores, Walmart, all those kinds of things. So
wow, I didn't realize. So really, this little town is almost like a mini Clearwater for the Delphi, the Scientology school, in a way. So all the Scientologists would be running around this town.
In a way, yeah, exactly. It's where all of the infrastructure for just regular life out off the hill, because Delphi is the school itself, the campus is almost 800 acres. It's way tucked back, sort of in the, the middle of nowhere in Oregon. And it's gorgeous out here, and it's very safe. Sheridan, the other claim to fame Sheridan has is they have a I believe it's a maximum security federal prison.
Whoa.
Yeah. So there's kind of that going on there too, which brings with its own, staffing and stuff like that. But a lot of people reside in McMinnville because if you want to go really do anything, you're going to McMinnville.
Yeah. Do you think that because the Delphi school is there, that was maybe a part of why they decided to put this mission in this small town?
Yes, I do. And I've been getting feedback that they had a mission in the past, as well as they've always sort of had a mission. So I think that the community there has always been existing and sort of thriving. It used to be reasonable to drive from McMinnville to Portland. It used to be a reasonable drive, maybe 45 minutes. So if you're talking about public Scientologists who are working and then taking courses, most likely they'd be on an evening weekend schedule for driving into the city to do their paid Scientology courses and processing. Nowadays, that's impossible. Like, I dread the idea of even making that drive, especially during that time of day with rush hour. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that there's an option closer to home,
Yeah, it does. And with the the kids in the school right there, if they were doing, do you think that they would be going to the mission to do any of their Scientology services for the kids that do that?
I do think that. So like if you and I put ourselves into the Scientology parent mindset, right? Like let's just be really good Scientology parents right now, okay, Nat? Don't
All
get
right.
triggered. Don't get triggered. So if we want our kids to have like the best Scientology educational opportunity, we want them to go to Delphi.
Yeah, that's
Most
what I
likely.
always heard growing up. I mean, it was always supposed to be like the best school you could go to would be Delphi, to go to the boarding school. It was a desirable thing. It was a status thing too, I think, for Scientology families to be able to say, "Oh, my kids are at Delphi."
Yeah, exactly. It's like oh, they're at Harvard. They're in an Ivy League, like
Mhm.
essentially. Yeah. Um, so our options then as Scientology parents, we can either get a job at Delphi because well, I don't know how it exactly works if you get a huge discount or if it's free or whatever, but that's a way to get our children to attend Delphi. So that means we're going to live there. If we're a really good Scientology family and we live there with our children, we're still going to want to do Scientology services,
Mhm.
right? So that's one demographic that this mission probably serves is the staff member families. So, because of course, if you have your parents on site, they can consent to that on your behalf, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right. So then you have another option where we could just send our children, just send them to boarding school. Like me, I left my house at 8 years old, and then from then on, I lived about 300 days a year away. Most of that for a big chunk of time was at Delphi. So if you think about a child being completely in care of a school, it's everything. It's their dental appointments, it's their eye doctor, it's all these life things. Um, and if you're a good Scientology parent, you got the dentist, you got the doctor, you got your Scientology courses, you got you got reading, you got writing. They're all of the same importance, right? You wouldn't deny your child Scientology processing. So you might have an agreement with the school because in their website it says that they facilitate children going accessing spiritual count, like their spiritual religious. So they'll say, we'll drive you to your mosque. We'll drive you to your Catholic church on Sunday. But that goes double hand. That means we'll also drive you to a Scientology mission, right?
Yeah.
Because your parents can consent on your behalf.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's right. That's
yeah.
true. And they sign their kids up for whatever. I think a lot of times the kids are rarely consulted in many situations of even like what they want to be doing. It's just this is
Mhm,
just what you need to do, especially when you're born into Scientology. You
mhm.
understand the assignment. You learn pretty quick as a child of Scientology
Right.
what your role is and what's expected of
Mm.
you. So this mission opens there. It's like practically in your backyard in a way. It's close by, right?
Yeah. It's in my
And
backyard enough that I know that people I know have seen me standing out there. And that's a whole that's a feeling. We're working
tell
through that.
tell me about that because does it feel to you that worlds are colliding in a way? You know how sometimes
Yes.
your YouTube life and your life off of YouTube are
Mhm.
somewhat separate, and then sometimes they collide and you're like, "Oh."
Yeah, it does get a little weird, especially because my book, is really personal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be, and I'm happy with it, but it is interesting when people will be like, "Oh, I read your book," and I'm like, "Oh, wow, you know all kinds of things about me."
Yeah, you know everything about me and I know nothing about you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I think that there's a variety of reasons. Some people might also have moved to McMinnville so that their children attend the day school because Scientology, the boarding school can be a day school. Yeah, and they actually recruit around here frequently. It doesn't work, but they try.
I'm gonna pull up the Delphi website.
Yes.
Let's see here. There we go, and let's see. So this is, I mean, you tell us, this is the school here?
Yes. Okay. So this building, the actual facility itself in the 70s was purchased. It's an old Jesuit, I don't want to say the words wrong, monastery. It was built by priests, Catholic
Mhm.
priests. And Oregon has this really long history with places like this, where a lot of times we're put out here to sort of be a part of a re-education system for the natives, which is terrible. This wasn't a boarding school for them, but that was part of the program as to why these big buildings were put so far out into the Wild West, essentially.
Mhm.
Um, and it was purchased with this idea to become a Scientology community and education facility. Uh, they used to do Scientology on site. They used to use e-meters with kids, but over time, that's become less and less acceptable and less profitable because as Scientology shrinks, the demographic that can both afford sending their children to Delphi and are willing to send their children to Delphi shrinks. So, in fact, I looked up their recent statistics. They have a 55% international student rate.
Wow. I mean, it looks like a beautiful campus. I mean, it's beautiful there in Oregon. It looked like there was track and field, like they have all of the bells and whistles, it looks like.
Oh,
What
every
like
belt.
where the do you know what it's like for what their dorms and stuff are like?
Yeah,
I'm
of
gonna
course.
I'm gonna
Okay,
assume.
well, this building here, there are a couple dorms in here, but I want to say one more thing about this. That middle, very top tower at the top, that's
Uh-huh.
a bell tower. And when you graduate from Delphi, you go up there and you ring the bell 3 times because it is the education system goes per student. So you could graduate at like 3 o'clock on a Friday, or you could graduate at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday. It's completely based on your progress. So anywhere on campus, if you would hear the bell, everyone would go and run up to that top floor, the 4th floor, which is the upper school, and they would like congratulate and give them the speech. And I actually get kind of goosebumps thinking about it. Just I know it's full indoctrination, but it's a magical moment, and for kids, you
Yeah,
know.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
So that's right, because at the Delphi school, it's not like there's 60 kids graduating together. It's all individually paced.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you think definitely we know then at the mission there's probably going to be parents and stuff there. Is there anything else from the school that you wanted to share?
Well, I did want to say, and we don't have to share necessarily that document. We can, but
Oh, yes. Let me
the
pull that up.
what's really interesting, I've come to realize. Okay, I got to back up for a second. Number one, you guys go look at that website. Go check it out. They swear they are not a Scientology school. They
Ah,
swear that they only follow Scientology, study tech, logic, all these like individual secular things. So I started this document. You guys, I just started it today. Please don't judge me for it like not being perfect. It's not even done yet.
oops.
But I know it's a weird size. Canva, when I put in infographic, it gave me this size. It's a work in progress, everybody. So
This
calm
is
down.
cool, Liz. I didn't know you
Yeah.
made this.
Yes. So this is Scientology School Undercover. And basically, I really want something that could be formatted as a one sheet PDF to email or a brochure. And I really just want to go over, like, you can't say that you are not Scientology when you use study technology, behavior modification, that's ethics. They have the ethics and moral codes, logic and leadership, and the communication drills. You and I both know that's freaking Scientology.
Yeah.
Like we
Every day,
both
all
know
day.
that. Anyway, so this is as far as I got.
Oh, it's super cool. You've even got the behavior modification.
Yeah. And then I want to go through all the rest of those I wrote. Like I said, I just started it and, I got stuff to do. I got into a groove and then I had to stop for a few things. The study technology, we don't need to go down this whole rabbit hole, but basically the reason I'm kind of going down this rabbit hole is I've gotten a lot of feedback that the local community does not know. The local community, guys, does not know that Delphi is Scientology. They have rebranded themselves, and because they've been here since the 70s, they've had enough turnover. This part of Oregon is growing rapidly. The population out here, a lot of them are new. It's not like they grew up here playing sports against Delphi and were able to figure it out. Nobody knows. And Delphi is ranked as number 1 in the school, in the state, in a bunch of, I don't know, online school rating things. I'm really trying to figure out how to put it very short. You know me, I like my short format. I like things short and sweet. So I can distribute this to locals, politicians. I can email it to the bodies that accreditate the school, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, this is amazing. I think you could do a lot with this. You've got such great info on there, including how study technology does not acknowledge cognitive disabilities, dyslexia, ADHD, autism, or executive dysfunction. Can you kind of talk a little bit about how does that work? Like, what happens if a kid is, it wouldn't be obvious to them necessarily if they have ADHD, or if they have a kid who has ADHD who's not a Scientologist, which could happen. How do they deal with that? Do you know?
Well, I should probably clarify that I'm speaking from my understanding and experience when I answer this question. And it's not just Delphi, it's any school that follows this L. Ron Hubbard study tech, which would be under applied scholastics. So there are other schools, not just Delphi, that would do this. They claim that any physiological or medical or mental distress that you experience while you are studying is always 100% of the time because of one of 3 problems. And it's L. Ron Hubbard has said it could either be A, B, or C. There is no D. There is no F. And so when you subscribe to like all things in Scientology, there's not one toe in, one toe out. It is presented as science. And that's part of where I think the loophole where we can really dig in, because essentially they're diagnosing medical conditions. If you are studying and you have fatigue, it is because you have a misunderstood word. There is no other reason. If you do not want to study anymore, right? That reminds me of, let's imagine a kid with ADHD. They want to leave. They don't want to sit there. They don't want to read this. I mean, not all. I'm just being very general. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. But you know what I mean? That's one of the ways it presents itself. They're wiggly. They want to get out of their chair. They want to, in Scientology, that's called blowing. And the reason is because you've passed misunderstood words. So if you're following this mindset, you are not ever going to explore like the fact that there could be neurological differences. It's only ever because they went by a word they don't understand or one of the other reasons he listed. And in that way, which is why I put on there, the blame really falls back on the student and becomes what the student has done. And there's an ethical code of responsibility to never go by a word you don't understand. So now you have a kid who's expressing wanting to leave, and it's not even like, that's not even considered. It's like gaslit, essentially. It's like, oh, well, you don't really want to leave. You just don't understand this. So let's go back and make you understand this. And then you want to stay. It's like, well, what if this kid is experiencing like has some really actual serious learning disability, cognitive delay, something where the expectation for them to continue sitting there is unreasonable and not appropriate. And then you end up in situations where children are not receiving optimal care, and it's a very slippery slope. So I hope that made sense. I just kind of went on a rant.
No, it totally did. I totally get that. It's so interesting to me because of, where you're located, where you live, your family's history with Oregon, that this is it's just like on this plate before you in a way. I feel like if I'm Scientology, I would have paid closer attention to who lives nearby.
They're probably mad at me. They're probably never would have guessed that I would live anywhere close. They probably expected me to live really far away, but Oregon is gorgeous. My husband's whole family is from here. We've got a great support network. I mean, we love it.
Yeah.
Despite
what?
Despite the proximity. One time I went to my local aquatic center and there was a Delphi field trip there. And in the freaking dressing room, like vulnerable, another lady recognized me. She was like, "Oh, wow, did you move here so your kids could go to Delphi?" I'm like naked. I'm like, "No, I gotta go."
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she hasn't heard about me yet.
Linda Lou wants to know, how far are you from Astoria?
The best I can say, Linda Lou, is that we are about an hour east of Lincoln City. Lincoln City is the spot, a coastal town, and then you would drive north to Astoria. So I feel like we're about 3 hours. No, maybe more than that. Astoria is way up at the top of Oregon. 3-ish hours. But Lincoln City is where, like, the line.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Charlene, thank you for your super sticker. Liz, it was wonderful protesting Wednesday. Thank you. So Charlene must have been out there with you.
Yes, Charlene has come out, and actually she made Nora's and my day. So Nora has also been protesting. We've been doing it together. And honestly, that makes me feel so much safer. I know. Nora makes me feel safe out there.
It's great. You can do it together, because it is, if you can, I personally, my opinion is, if you can go with one other person, at least, that there's safety in numbers and at least somebody else who's watching or is a witness to things. But you had a good group there. It was, so it was Nora, you, Charlene.
And 2 Lisas. There was a local woman, I did not catch her last name, who has some experience running for the city council. She was telling, I think, Nora on her channel, some really interesting stuff. Because, like I said, there's been a hot spot for a while. And I think it was in 2022. Gosh, I can't remember what year, but a Scientologist ran for city council. And Tony Ortega, who you guys probably know, he's like a big anti-Scientology journalist, news guy. He traced Brittany's husband back to some kind of essay cover up. I forget what all the details and who it was, but as per usual, a really bad look. And I find it really interesting because it just goes to show that every time they put a Scientologist out there to look pretty, it's not even 6 degrees to abuse. There's not just 6 degrees of separation. It's always one. So
she was running for city council, and you're talking about Brittany Ruiz, I think is her last name, right? Yeah. Not a fan.
No.
There are very, very, very little people that I don't like.
You know her.
Well, knew her. Okay. And my biggest issue with her was she recruited my daughter into the Sea Org. Yeah, it's obviously still an issue.
Oh, that's a big issue.
Lied her butt off about a lot of things, because I said, hey, I was in the Sea Org, and no, I don't want my daughter going and, living 3 bunk beds high and all this and not being in school. And she lied and lied and lied.
That's a very damning story for her.
Yeah. And then sure enough, everything she said pretty much was a lie. And I think Shelby lasted a week. I knew she wouldn't. I knew that my daughter would not want to be there once she, they talked her into doing it. Brittany talked her into doing it. And it was summertime. And I just thought, well, she'll go, she'll not like it, she'll come back. And that was not the case. I had to go get her It was really ugly.
Mhm.
But I'm still obviously holding on to a little bit of resentment with this Brittany for just, recruiting children into the Sea Org and lying your butt off to your parents. So you're saying she was running for city council and it came out that her husband had covered up some type of essay? Was this in Scientology?
Yeah, I forget who it was. Maybe it was one of the Jane Does. His name, you guys can look it. Google Brittany Ruiz, IRUZ. Antonio Ortega's thing will come up and he tells the situation very specifically. I don't want to get it wrong, but I feel like that story you just told, you need to put in your back pocket, because if she ever runs for anything ever again, I strongly think that story would convince voters not to vote for her.
Yeah, I don't see why you'd want to vote for somebody or think that they would have your community's best interest at heart when she'd
Right.
lied to parents and recruited children into a, human trafficking cult.
Right.
Charlene says, wow, Brittany continues to post on local Facebook pages, even though she moved out of the state.
I bet she got ran out of town. I mean,
I like that, running her out of town.
Oh,
Run-
RUIZ. Sorry, my bad.
yeah. And then Mama Opal has a link in there to the Tony Ortega article.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for
Yes.
grabbing that.
Thank you.
Irina is she's saying the infographic looks great. Are you planning to make it into a flyer?
Thank you, Irina. So I'm just designing it on Canva. So I'm assuming that I can turn it into all types of things. Yes, the answer is yes. I don't have it all figured out yet because I need to add quite a bit more. And then once I get it all pared down to the least amount of information I can and get the images right, I'll see what I have. I'm super open to suggestion, you guys. So there's that. Yeah.
It's such a good idea. Marla Dillard's asking, since the premise is that you are an adult in a child body, how do they keep accreditation with the minimum state education requirements?
Okay, so I'm not an expert in this. This is my basic understanding that because they are a private school, they do not have, especially in Oregon, because every single state has its own, education requirements. In Oregon, they follow the requirements. There's like certain testing, I want to say at 3rd grade, 5th grade. I mean, it's not that hard. I don't mean to sound like a brat, but it's not that hard to pass the academic state levels. They academics wise, I mean, they're in school. Those kids are in school from 8:30 to 5:30 every day. I don't think academics is where they're failing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine, and that one thing, if I don't know if it operates, is it similar to Scientology courses in that there's a check sheet?
Yes. Packs, check sheets, demo kits, dictionaries, exams, qual. The whole thing. It's run. It's run. Wow, Liz. Okay. The Delphian school is structured exactly like a Scientology organization. They have the same organization chart, essentially, with the same division titles, roles. And so when you become a staff member there, oh my gosh, I should read you something. Okay, we should talk about it later. Somebody posted on Reddit that they're a staff member there and how eerie the experience is because they weren't in Scientology, and how they started asking questions and now everybody's treating them badly. I laughed. That's another reason I think this education is probably beneficial because I think employees should know Scientology as well before you relocate your job, your life, whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
You need to know.
Irina also says here, accreditation. Have no idea how they do it in Oregon. In Russia, they did it through safe pointing of government officials, NGOs, and allegedly bribes. Yeltsin era state was very, very corrupt.
Yeah. So what they're doing here, and to speak to the adults in little bodies, how that manifests in the Scientology educational system is that everything's done on your own time, right? So you could be, so let's take my brother, for example. He was very, very smart. And so when he was 8 years old, he was at, I forget what level, but he was in the upper school at Delphi. So he was placed on his academic level, not on his peer group, if that makes sense. So it's all about where you are academically.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You could be 10. You could be Doogie Howser. I don't know if that's kind of, I just aged myself, but
You and me both. I knew
yeah,
exactly what you're talking about.
yes, exactly. You could be a genius child, and don't get me wrong, we want to be age appropriate, right? This is such an important concept, being age appropriate. The expectations, what we subject children to, who they're around, what we want them to do, and what we hold them to doing needs to be age appropriate.
Yeah.
And that's where I think some of this stuff falls short.
Which makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I always found it interesting that maybe not all, but I have heard at Delphi that academically that the kids do well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's all of them or if it was propaganda, but I did always hear that the kids at Delphi did well. That's one thing. And I can even speak from my experience in Scientology, like the things that we would train in, we were competent at it. Like it was made sure that you understood it and you could do that, even though we weren't educated in, math and other things. Not talking about a Delphi school, but like in the Sea Org. But, we could read the crap out of anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
and learn how to do it. Even things that we had no business doing. You brought up the Reddit. I wanted to pull up the Reddit because you did a post about this on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So tell people about that and I'll pull it up.
Well, I like Reddit because they'll tell you how they really feel. I appreciate that. But so this is McMinnville. This is the Reddit for McMinnville, Oregon, where I was. And I said, did anyone see me? There's me. Did you honk? Why or why not? And I thought it was kind of fun. Sadly, only one person said they actually saw me. And I was like, yay. And then they wrote back and they were like, I didn't really, but I thought you were cute. So I said that I did. I was like, oh.
I think some of them did because I thought I scanned this quickly, but I mean, you got a lot of comments there.
Yeah, 118 upvotes. So that's nice. I mean, pretty much everybody, the feedback I was getting was like, wow, I didn't see you. I would have honked. I would totally have honked. Obviously, this person was there, and I'm not sure which that is. which one person that is. This one, yeah. I saw you, I honked. Yay, cool. Actually, I didn't. You're just cute. I lied. Oh man. Didn't see you.
People surprised. Like that's the other thing I noticed there on that Reddit post there is how many people were surprised that this place even existed.
Yes. And that is so much that's the whole point of this, to be honest with you. That's really the whole point. It's because, like Irina was asking, the way that they get away with this is that they distance themselves from Scientology and they repackage it, not the mission, but kind of the mission too. They're like, oh, we're just like we're just here for outreach. I don't know why they joined the city Chamber of Commerce. Other than they probably have money to throw around to add to local programs. And they safe point, like at the missions grand opening, they had a local seroptimist leader. That's like a woman's, I'm going to say it all wrong, but it's like Women Helping Women group, very well established. They had another nonprofit from Portland speaking, on their behalf as well. So it's safe pointing, but it's also really pulling the wool over people's eyes because they're literally saying this is not Scientology when it is. And even with the mission, they're saying it's Scientology, but I don't know that they're really telling the true story about what's going to be expected.
In what way?
Well, you're a stranger. You walk into a Scientology mission off the street. Like, what are you told? You're told, oh, we just offer, our courses are cheap, $50 to $70. We have our little, they broke up the big VM volunteer ministers huge book into little tiny booklets. They're $3.50. Whoever told you Scientology was expensive, they don't know what they're talking about. We're just regular folks out here. And it's very much like what they did to your daughter. It's very much like that. It's a lie to get you through the door, a lie to get you down the hallway, a lie to get you through the next door, and pretty soon you're in this labyrinth.
Yeah, very much so. There's so much bait and switch in Scientology. If you think that you're going to get this, and then it turns out to be something different. Even when you would go for a service and be like, oh, okay, well, it's just going to take 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months later.
Right.
And they just don't let people go. They just keep stringing you along.
I know. It's such a sad thing because it's like an MLM in a way. And it's like, this is the first catch. Like the missions are designed to look like grassroots operations that are just helping the local community. And until I see really, really strong evidence of that, I just don't believe it.
Yeah. What is it like for you being, you were a third generation Scientologist, now former Scientologist. You have Delphi right there, and now this mission, and you're going and protesting. What is it like for you when you go and protest?
It's a lot. It's a lot. I damn near had a panic attack. This last one driving, I was pretty surprised. I was like, wow, therapy I've been working, notice. I'm like, wow, I'm really noticing my heart is racing. I'm really noticing I'm sweating.
Yeah.
Really noticing that I'm nervous. I have to do these things for me though. Like, to be totally honest with you, okay, it's one thing to make the content. I like making the content. But that's kind of secondary for me, just in my mind and the way I work, where I'm at in life. Maybe that'll change. I think it shows in my content. Like, I have a long way to go, like audio wise. But my heart's big, guys.
Yeah, and your stuff, you have a way of sharing things that makes it engaging but funny, but while also pointing out the important things. And for those of you that don't know, Liz Gale is like massive on TikTok too.
Not comparatively, but I've worked hard over there and I've exposed and educated a lot of folks on Scientology. And traditionally, there's a little bit of a, if I look at my demographics, who follows me on YouTube, it's a little different than the demographic, like age type group that follows me on TikTok. And so I have a college age son. He just went to college this year, and they think they know so much and they just don't know anything. They still need their parents, and they still need to have somebody watch their back, because they're a very desirable group for cults in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you talked to your kids at all about this and about like you protesting it being so close to home and all that?
Yeah, I have. I'm lucky that my oldest son, he went through losing everything. Okay, I'm not lucky that he went through that. I switched my words around there. He went through losing everything with us. I mean, he was old enough to know and remember and feel the broken promises from my family. And he's really proud of me. He's always been my number one fan. I definitely told him, like, hey, I'm going to do something kind of dumb. Like, I'm going to dress up and stand on the street corner and put this sign and do this thing. And he was like, okay, whatever. But this is where I am in life. I have these ideas, and this is an attainable idea, right? Yeah. I'm not trying to go to the moon here. Like, okay, I put on a bright, eye-catching color. I make a sign. I stand on the corner, and I see what happens, and I try to educate people. I'm trying to embrace that more in life, because as you mentioned before, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm this person here. I don't know why I ended up this close to Delphi. I don't know why I ended up this close to McMinnville. I don't want to get all woo-woo on you, but like, this is my local community, and I'm starting to feel like a cosmic something where I just want to shake up the universe. I just want to try my best and see what happens, see what I can accomplish, but I don't want to do it from a place of hate, right? These are my fellow moms. I don't want to start a war. I want to educate them in a way that people will ask their own questions. And it's not like, you know, this lady on the street corner said, oh, you're a cult, I believe her. It's like, no, here's some things to Google. Here's some things for you to understand. Almost turning the curious thing on its head. Scientology's like, are you curious? Like, hey, are you curious about the lawsuits? You curious about the abuse? You curious about this weird ass school up on the hill that's lying? And people are. It's right on a busy street, this mission.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that too, because I think the same thing about it being a little cosmic, because and if you could kind of, I mean, because some people might not be fully familiar with your story. Can you talk a little bit about your family's deep roots in Oregon? That's kind of my whole point with, like, I feel like this is it's a full circle moment in many ways. But I think for people who don't know, they really need to understand how deep your roots go in the state of Oregon with your family.
Yeah. Well, I mean, starting out, my family came across on the Oregon Trail. And if you, and I grew up understanding that my family had a homesteaded ranch that they had gotten from the Homesteading Act in 1864. There was this free land in America thing. And if you went out west and you conquered the land, you got, you know, your tracts of land. So my family's been out in Oregon for a long time in that way. One of my great, forget which one, grandmothers was one of the few to be born in a covered wagon and survive. Like, I don't know if you guys have played the Oregon Trail game, but like dysentery, rattlesnake bikes, everyone's going out. My grandma made it through. She won the real life game of Oregon Trail. I also went to boarding school here. Like, I essentially grew up here. Even when my family didn't live here, I lived here. So from 8 to 14, I attended the boarding school here. Then, unrelated, at 14, we moved out to that property in Oregon. And I've kind of been here ever since. I went to, and I guess I should probably talk about my brother. So I had an older brother. His name was Philip Gale. Feel free to, again, do your own research there. 4 years older than me. He was sent to boarding school, Delphi, at 8 years old. So I want to say that's 1983 or 4. He was my parents were close with some of the people that started Scientology, right? Because my parents were in New Hampshire trying to start their own Scientology community. My mom had started her own school out there. But I don't want to go down into the weeds here, but there were reasons that my brother should be at Delphi. And so that's when I was 4, right? So where's my big brother going? Oregon. And then I started going to Oregon. And then my kids are actually 5th generation Oregonians because my husband's family has been in Oregon for a very long time. So this is like, I care deeply. This is my community. This is my home. These are like Delphi actually is recruiting. Like, they want the kid. I think my neighbor sends their kids there. I mean, it's local, and they don't know. They don't know. And I debated if I should be the one to tell them.
Wow. When you say that Delphi is lying, can you kind of elaborate on that for people that might not be familiar with how they're hiding what they really are?
Yes. And of course, this is my personal opinion, everybody, when I say that they're lying. When you do not disclose what you are really doing and you call it by a different name, I consider that to be a lie. So the fact that their website, their promotion, all of their PR, and like they'll fight you on it if you say it is a Scientology school. However, we're talking about children that live there. It's not just about studying. You have to have a system in place for behavior modification, emotional, social development, and growth. You have to have catches in place for physical and cognitive delays or special needs. I think that if you use all of L. Ron Hubbard to define all of those things for your school and your student's life, you are using Scientology.
Yeah.
And to say you are not, especially when using multiple, like, it's not just study technology. It's not just behavior modification. It's learning about emotions. It's learning about reason, logic. You literally study L. Ron Hubbard's written work. Even in their student handbook, they have L. Ron Hubbard quotes. You use their justice system. They write up their overts and withholds. Overts and withholds is a form of confession in Scientology that exists because L. Ron Hubbard defined the spirit, mind, and body. He says, because the spirit, mind, and body work like this, this is what you do to alleviate yourself from sin, basically. How can you do the alleviating yourself from sin part if you're not basing it on this religious idea? So how could you call it not religious? I'm not sure if I'm making any sense here.
No,
obviously I need to work on my delivery. Like I want to be able to summarize this shorter so I can go to a politician, I can go to a leader, but that's why I think they're lying. That's why I say they're lying, because they're not being honest.
You know, it makes perfect sense, and you're very right about that. And it'll be interesting to see as you come out with, you know, like I think that graphic you put together and you start raising more awareness about it. And now with this baby blue mission there, it just seems kind of poetic in a way, like this opportunity that is right there, but it's also a responsibility in a way, because you're also still going through your own healing, you know, and taking something like this on and doing it and putting in the work, and you're raising your family and everything else. Do you find it difficult at all to put all those things together and push forward with doing this type of work when it comes to talking about and exposing Scientology, you know, while still healing, while still and kind of living somewhat, you know, not in the belly of the beast, because that's more LA Clearwater, but kind of, I mean, with Delphi there and just the number of Scientologists that could be coming through that town. What is that like for you? Like, what keeps you motivated to do that? Because as you just shared, it's difficult going and protesting. It can be very anxiety inducing for you. And it's been that way for me, for many former Scientologists. The only time I have nightmares about Scientology anymore is pretty much if I go protest. And then they happen, and then, and then nothing for a while. But what motivates you? Because I feel like that is a lot. And we all see you. It's like you still show up with a smile. You're out there in that crazy, fabulous alien costume and doing your thing. How do you keep doing that? How do you keep, showing up? Like, what motivates you to continue to take this on?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have this really specific, unique experience and education and I'm like in this very specific, not just geographic location, but I don't know. It's like all these things happened in life and now I'm here. And I feel as if in the case of Delphi, for example, I feel like I'm one of the few people who are actually has the experience of going there. Has the credibility of having a dead brother that went there. I mean, not to chase my brother's death, but you know what I'm saying? Like my story is relative and nobody could say, you didn't even go there. You don't know what you're saying. Right. I also, in an effort to heal and understand, I pursued my own education. I have a degree in child and family studies. So I'm kind of, it's not unique necessarily, but I do have some specific understanding where I can communicate with other professionals, educators, politicians, and we can have a common language. I don't know. I don't want to say it's right spot, right place. I just feel an obligation. I feel an obligation. I don't want any of my kids' classmates getting sucked in over there. I don't want my older, the college kids. I don't.
Yeah. And you're in such a unique position, like you said, because of your experience at the school, growing up in Scientology, coming from a multi-generational Scientology family. And I really can see this. I keep seeing you just being such an advocate in that position, because you're somebody people will listen to. You went to the school, you live in the community, and the fact that you're educated as well in that area, I think gives you more legitimacy in a way. Like, you've done both worlds. And for many of us who grew up in Scientology, many of us didn't go on and get a formal education that way. And I think you're right. It's like it's the right place at the right time, but it just seems very cosmic. I don't even know how else to explain it. It just really feels like, yes, this is something that I feel like you could end up leading the charge of in ways, and then maybe other people in other schools, because there's other Scientology schools, to make such a difference. You know, you could speak to lawmakers, you could like, it's all, I feel like, kind of starting to come together. You're an author. Like, there's a lot. We need to get you some like speaking engagements out there.
I would love it. I'm happy at this point just to stand on the side of the road in a dumb outfit for now. Low pressure, low pressure.
Pressure. While you were out there protesting at the mission, have you run into any Scientologists there yet?
There was a man that stopped and pulled over and took a picture that Nora, I think, went and spoke to, and he said something about freedom of religion, and then we're all like, oh yeah, okay. How I suspect it will work. Side note too, in my sign picture, it's not there, but I had like a QR code printed on 8x11 stuck on the side.
Ooh.
So when people were taking pictures of me, I wasn't suspicious. That's how you scan a QR code.
Yeah.
So, but this other guy was suspicious because he parked in a weird spot and did a bunch of weird stuff. I suspect, knowing what I know, that everybody has been alerted. Reports have been filed.
Yeah.
I would assume, because I'm not going to make any secrets about when we're going. I'm going to put it up on the Reddit. I'm going to put it up on my page. I'm going to put it everywhere, because for me, the more people that know show up, even if it's just Reddit, I'll be live streaming. That keeps me safe.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything you can think of that just like even people watching now can do to contribute to that? I mean, obviously it's you know, head over and follow you and know, you know, at Liz Gale, but anything else, like you're doing the flyer. I know I thought I saw a couple of questions about that too. Like, is there, you know, is there any other type of support that you need in doing this? Because I really do believe with this mission there and what you're doing, that this is kind of the beginning in a way of something that I think could continue to be very impactful.
Right. I mean, if I was like really going hog wild, it would be so fun for us all to dress up as the aliens. I mean, truly. I feel like that's attainable, but also I'm not necessarily going to spend my money doing that. But those outfits are, you know, on Amazon. I do think that visuals are important in a protest. I would assume that the visuals will get evolved. But I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question, guys. Just send me a Starbucks. Uber Eats me a Starbucks when I'm out there. That's how you can support me.
Kraken Studio says freedom of religion seems threatened by freedom of speech, yet then uses it weaponized when an agenda is at play.
So true. And I think it's really important too. Like, freedom of religion does not give you the right to lie to people. Freedom of religion does not give you the right to falsely represent an experience or a situation. You know, I'm all for freedom of speech, freedom of religion. But that stops at breaking the law.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, it definitely should.
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, at Liz.
Hi.
Yeah, that was a great point. Selena says, it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there protesting. I have a lot of respect for ex-Scientology survivors who are out there despite their experiences.
Thank you, Selena. You would have been proud of me. I was driving the car. I was noticing the feelings, and I was telling myself, I was like, Liz, you wanted to get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
This is what it feels like outside your comfort zone. You're not comfortable. Surprise. But I did have to summon some courage for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and you've been out there, like you've protested multiple times. We've protested at Flag together in Clearwater. Do you find it all that it gets easier, or each time you go, there's kind of that level of anxiety?
Well, I feel the same at Flag that day. Like I damn near melted into a puddle. I hadn't been there since I was a little kid. I do think it's like exposure therapy. It gets easier and easier. I'm kind of a paradox, but I like if I'm going to do it, I'd like to put it on Reddit. I'd like for everybody to know, not just because I'm like, hey, look at me, but it makes me feel better. It makes me, I don't know how to explain it. It makes me feel safer.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like friends are watching me, not just critics.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very much that's true too. And when you can go with other people, and the cool thing is it already sounds like you got a group together there, and I bet more will join. If people want to join, if they happen to be in the area or go out there, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Is it through your YouTube channel or website?
Yes. Follow me on the YouTube channel. It's all evolving, guys. I think what we will ultimately do is, well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer these questions because I don't have a plan. I got a big heart, guys, and I got no plan.
But at least the questions help kind of prompt like
They
what
do.
the plan could maybe be.
They do. I think what I well, if you wouldn't mind, I can tell your viewers that I will let you know also when we plan on protesting next, and perhaps you can share with your viewers.
Absolutely.
Okay. My channel I'll have stuff on my community tab, and maybe I'll do some shorts leading up to it. The rain has come to Oregon. I'm assuming it will be, I don't know, 10 days. We'll see. We'll see. But I'll try. I'll try to shout it from the rooftops. I'll put it in the Scientology protest on Reddit, and I will put it in the McMinnville thread in Reddit as well.
Yeah, and I will absolutely share it as well because I think it's such a great thing. And even though it's a mission and a smaller Scientology organization, the truth is they're all small. But I think it's key because you can tell they're going to use it to try and indoctrinate even more people and these kids having the school so close.
For sure. Well, and honestly, we haven't seen a single person go in or out of that building.
Is it open?
They say.
Wow.
They say. I also want to set up a little group. It's like that will let us know when they're handing out flyers, because I've gotten a lot of feedback that they're handing out flyers around town, at the college, at the high school.
The Scientology mission.
Yep.
Oh.
But what they're handing out is like the truth about drugs, which they say is secular, and the way to happiness, which they say is secular, which is why they say for some reason it's okay for them to hand it out at a high school.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, you were definitely in the right place at the right time. We'll make sure, if you guys aren't already following Liz Gale, that's her channel right there, so you can stay in the know. Plus, we're fortunate to have Liz pops into the chat sometimes in the morning on the recap, and we'll make sure to share it and to update. And I think we're all going to be very excited about your next book when that comes out. I love that you're doing a series. I just think it's going to be really great to be I enjoy watching you and doing what you're doing and the perspective that you bring. I think you bring a really unique perspective, not just because of how you grew up and your family, but I love the fun you put into it too. You make it fun. And this is a topic that can be so icky and hard to talk about. And I think the only way, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. The only way to make it is to have self-care and sometimes laugh about the absurdity of it. Otherwise, we just can't keep doing it. For me personally, there needs to be fun and humor involved where it's appropriate, where we can do that to balance out how difficult it is to do and to go back and put ourselves in spaces that we would never want to visit again in a million years, that we want to avoid like the plague. But it's worth it because I'm with you on that one. Like putting our, going outside our comfort zone, that's when the growth starts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I assume I'll improve in all areas. So I hope you guys will stick with me. You know that, keep your expectations low, but we're going places. We're going places.
I like to say the same.
I really think if the moms, I mean, I guess I'm biased, but like when it comes to the way that children are raised and what's acceptable and what's not, moms often, primary caregivers often define that culture in society. And so it's important for me, like the ex-Scientology mom thing. Like I want every mom to know. I just want every single mom to know that Scientology is a cult. Just please know that. Please be aware.
Yeah, that passion is really going to go far. I super appreciate you being here. Everybody who's with us here, please hit that like, hit that subscribe. Make sure you follow Liz Gale and give her lots of aloha, especially when she's out there. Send the girl a coffee.
That's right. That's right. I hope one day we'll have so many people that I'll be like, you have to send 12 dozen cookies or something, because there's just so many of us. It'll be great.
Yeah, so many people there. Hey, no one. Just hey, Nat. Hey, Liz.
Hey.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. I so appreciate it. It's always great to chat with you.
You too.
All right, everybody, get out and have that fabulous cult-free day. We will talk to you later.
Yep. Bye, guys.